unplanned live stream. Unplanned live stream. Let me pull up this thing right here. So, if those of you who follow this content, you guys know I pop live streams up on a random. I don't expect much commitment to my channel because, again, I probably won't offer too much consistent commitment to the channel because I live life. I don't really live for the YouTube and the cyber world. Just too much manipulation, you know what I mean? But anyways, if you missed this live stream, you are welcome to catch it on the replay. Those of you who follow my channel, you guys know I don't pop live streams on you unless there is something super duper juicy or interesting um, that I think is worth talking about and sharing. Okay. First off, I want to say I want to correct myself, and I am always open to being corrected, especially when I'm grappling with something, and then I get the clarity. And so I mentioned in previous live streams that the Apostle Paul was not a Hebrew because he was a Jew because he practiced Judaism. But he was from the tribe of Benjamin. And I want to make sure I put that out there. It was one of those things where Herod the Great was a Roman plant. And so when you read the Bible and you read about Herod, and he's positioned as the king in Israel, the king of the Jews, a lot of people are thinking that Herod was Jewish, and he was Jewish from that perspective because he converted to Judaism, but Herod was not a Hebrew. All right. And so I want to just put that out there that I do stand corrected on the Apostle Paul because he was from the Paul of the tribe of Benjamin. And it threw me off with Paul because he was born in Tarsus. And I think when you're studying the Bible and you're looking at people and where they come from, it can get confusing when you're talking about Hebrews and Jews because, again, we got to go back to Babylon. There was a conversion that was the creation of Judaism, and unfortunately you did have Hebrews who did create that extension to their faith in opposition to the judgment that they received from their God. So I stand corrected on that, and I apologize, but I do stand firm on my belief, truth unedited, that spiritual Israel does exist. Spiritual Israel is a real thing. And I think that sometimes people conflate Old Testament promises with New Testament promises. And I am not saying that the Old Testament promises went away for the Hebrew people. What I am saying that if you look at the arguments between the Apostle Paul and James, they're making the similar argument to what you're making, and that is that there's only one Israel. It is the original extension, and there is a whole conversation about that in the book of Romans. And so when we're talking about Gentiles, which includes, right, the extensions of the original branches of Hebrews, the black people, you're talking about Jews, you're talking about Christians, you're talking about Muslims, not those faith, but those people who, if they follow the way, right, they would be constituted as spiritual Israel because Israel in the Bible constitute God's people. And yes, God had an original nation, original people, but the whole point of the new covenant is because there were Gentiles who were more faithful to the God of Abraham than the original branches. And this is where the account of Job is so important because Job was not a Hebrew. Job was arguably an Edomite, which is akin to living in Jordan. He was from Jordan. that Jordan area. So Job was not a Hebrew. Job was a Gentile that lived in the area that followed the God of the Israelites. So I am just saying that Job would be considered spiritual Israel because no, Job is not part of those original ancestral branches, but he is a part of the converted people who had faith in the God of Abraham when they didn't have to, because obviously Edom was full of false gods. So that was my point. But off that, we're talking about Erika Kirk going after, finally opening her mouth, and they used Harris Faulkner. They had to, like, let's get her on Fox with the black woman because this is a black woman going after this woman, and we need Harris on this, right? So Harris Faulkner interviewed Erika Kirk, and Erika Kirk, she done turned off the tears, and now she's pissed. And she's pissed for a number of reasons because, like I said, the shit that Candace Owens is saying, it's not messing with their donors because obviously Turning Point was able to recoup all of those donors that were falling off of the radar when Charlie was changing his position. After Charlie died, them donors came back like problem solved, right? And Turning Point can live to get more donations and try to wield the influence that the organization was wielding under Charlie Kirk. But Candace Owens is like, damn that. Damn that. Y'all had something to do with Charlie. This is all suspect to me. It seems like you guys are just lying. It feels like a cover up. That was my friend, and I already told y'all I think that Candace Owens and Charlie gave Candace Owens the business, okay? You don't go that hard for somebody that's just a friend and just a mission. Nah, nah, nah. But I already told you guys about that. Like, Charlie and Candace can never be public about anything because that's not the narrative on that side. He needed to be with an Erika. But Erika is pissed off now because what's going on is Candace has cut into viewership, participation, influence, right? Anytime you tell their base not to subscribe and you are putting reasonable doubt on the table that this organization by our beloved Charlie Kirk might have turned on him. Well, I mean, obviously, people who love Charlie Kirk, who was down for the fight that Charlie Kirk had, they're not going to like that so much. And they're going to start and mind you, Turning Point and Candace have the same audience. And if you look at post Charlie Kirk, the Charlie Kirk show numbers are going this way and Candace Owens is going this way. All right. So that crowd is expressing where their loyalty is. And apparently it's not with Turning Point USA. It's not with Turning Point USA. So Erika had to get on the mic. She had to get a jump on this because now this shit is really cutting into the possible profits outside of the donors, right? Because the donors can only get you so far, right? You need that base of people who believe in your mission and your dream, right, to continue to donate as well. But if these people are listening to Candace Owens and what they say are some conspiracy theories that she's putting together to narrate Turning Point USA as maybe ops of Charlie Kirk, that doesn't look good for the organization. So Erika has to say something now. And what you saying, Erika?
Time for that, but here's my breaking point on that. Come after me, call me names, I don't care. Call me what you want, go down that rabbit hole, whatever. But when you go after my family, my Turning Point USA family, my Charlie Kirk Show family, when you go after the people that I love, and you're making hundreds and thousands of dollars every single episode.
So she don't like it that Candace is making all this money off of talking about her husband, right? And Candace rebuts this, right? If you look at Candace's show, I didn't look at the entire show, but I did look at the beginning of it, and she's kind of responding to Erika, right? And Candace says on her show, she's like, wait a minute, you're talking about the money that bloggers and live streamers are making because we are actively investigating your husband's suspicious death, right? And Turning Point just got almost $140 million of new donations. And what was that amount that Nick Fuentes said that Charlie Kirk turned down from the Zionist folk? 150 million. So they're really getting really up to that point again, right? With the new donations that they've been getting post Charlie Kirk's death. So they're making money too. Everybody making money off of Charlie Kirk's death. And maybe it's not really the intent. I'm going to capitalize on Charlie's death, but you're still capitalizing on Charlie's death. All of these people, Candace Owens, not so much Turning Point USA. People could argue that Candace is doing this for profit, but she also has an underlying reason why this is particularly meaningful to her because it's very, very close to her. And so I think Erika Kirk did give her that grace, but she's saying at the same time, the things that you're saying, it's hurting my organization. It's hurting the people that I call family. You're putting a microscope under these people that mean something to me. And so she's taking a very emotional appeal to this, which I really, if I was her PR rep person, obviously I would, this is exactly what I would have Erika saying right now. You got to get on the mic and be that angry, frustrated widow, because it will start making people look at Candace a little bit differently. Not saying that what Candace is doing is wrong, right? But a lot of people on that conservative side who are pro Israel, they are turning on her left and right. Like when you look at Patrick Bat David, Tim Pool is having a female spasm. I cannot stand that dude because he's female spasming about Candace Owens, right? These are the same people that had her on their show geeking, looking at her as an objective voice to a conversation. Now all these people are turning on her because she's going harder for Charlie Kirk than a lot of these people are. It's crazy. A black woman going that damn hard for that white man. Insane. So let me check my chat. I need to go over here. I see messages deleted. I hope y'all not coming up in here with that ignorant shit because I will hurt your feelings. Don't come over here with that stuff because your mama raised a fool. But what's going on to those who are chiming in? What's going on? Let me know what you guys think. Erika Kirk is really not having it with Candace Owens right now. You can see that she's even red in the face. She don't have that angelic glowy face, the grieving glowing face. She's pissed. And she should be pissed because if you're talking about our viewership is going down, our interest is going down, the whole mission of Turning Point loses if they cannot influence that conservative base. If that conservative base is listening to Candace Owens and they're buying into the things that she's saying, that really hurts Turning Point, and it actually makes them look like the same people that all of these people think that they're fighting against. So it makes Turning Point USA without Charlie Kirk look like an establishment ran organization that has essentially been hijacked, and it doesn't look like his wife is doing anything to stop that hijacking. She's just trying to look like a grieving widow who is fighting and investigating behind the scenes for her husband while she's making all these public appearances. Meanwhile, Candace Owens is truly out there fighting harder for her husband than she is. And again, I'm not trying to, everybody grieves differently, but I don't really see Erika Kirk angry like that, right? There's a whole process to grief, right? And her process to grief was kind of weird, right? Like and I guess this is just normal. She's like, I got to keep up what Charlie did, right? But you got kids at home. You keep talking about Bible scriptures. You don't owe any of these people any of these appearances, and yet here you are. And that is up for scrutiny. It does look weird. She doesn't look like a grieving widow. She looks like a woman who she might be sad. Like, let's just play the scenario that Erika Kirk really was one of those power hungry women that could not stand to be behind a powerful man. And so if he was gone, it really didn't matter because she could exert her power. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm a power hungry woman and I don't give a fuck about my husband, right? I'm kind of glad he's gone so that now I can exert my power and my authority. And this is exactly what she's doing, right? She's not a grieving widow. She is a woman that is assuming the power that she's always wanted in a lot of people's mind. That may not be true, but again, I think that patterns matter. And I mean, from Jump Street, I mean, the dude wasn't even dead a week, and here she go on his show thinking that she needed to be talking to people, and it's like you didn't owe anybody anything, and you constantly making appearances. That's not a grieving widow. And if Turning Point USA had such a phenomenal, dynamic team like they claim, why isn't somebody acting in an interim while Erika can go out and grieve like a normal damn widow? See, I mean, what Candace Owens is, like I said in my last video, Candace Owens is never going to be able to say this definitively happened. This person definitively did it, right? The only thing that Candace Owens is ever going to be able to do, and you can see it in her investigative strategy, is connect dots that create reasonable doubt. Connect dots that plant seeds that make people think that maybe what I am being told is not the truth. And honestly, she's helping you think. Think of Candace Owens, for a lot of you idiots out there, as a ghost thinker. Because that's exactly what she's doing in her delivery with a lot of this stuff. It's helping you people think about things critically and broadly and not believing everything that somebody's slapping your face, especially the FBI. What's up, Fats and Mossad? I know y'all watching all of the American streamers, right? I'm not trying to be a revolutionary in Satan's world, so leave me the fuck alone, or my God will answer. But anyways, all I'm saying is that Erika Kirk has to be on the microphone right now because there is influence on the line here. It's not even about the money that's on the line, right? Because nothing that Candace is doing right now has stopped any money going into Turning Point USA. Why? Because the donors are dumb. The donors are buying the influence that the organization can wield. The donors aren't thinking that Turning Point is losing their clout. And the conservative puppet masters, the conservative media establishment, your Tim Pool, your Patrick Bet-David, all your usual suspects, they gotta gang against Candace. They gotta call her crazy. She ain't got no friends. This, that, or other. They gotta paint all kinds of narratives about Candace Owens right now to make her look uncredible. She ain't got no friends, so who the fuck cares if she's telling the truth? Like, since when did a truth teller need a bunch of friends, right? You only need the people that care about the truth, right? And there's a lot of people that follow Candace Owens that cares about the truth. And so, of course, they're going to follow her. Of course, they're going to let her dig into all the critical thinking points that their brain isn't capable of going to, right? It's the power of the black mind that they love to say is unintelligent. I was just thinking about this. On the Democratic side, black women are, they are prime puppets, right? They leverage black women all day on the Democratic side. They will leverage a black woman on the Democratic side before they leverage a black man, right? On the Republican side, they leverage black men more, right? They you don't really you see black women woven into that Republican establishment, but they don't typically survive in that Republican establishment. Omarosa, look at all the black women that kind of tethered on to Trump at some point. They typically don't survive. Candace Owens, obviously, she survived because she was trained by them. Like she was trained by these people. And, it's going to be interesting to see, how this kind of plays out. Personally, Erika, she said what she said, but she should not, like, I think she should put it to bed and just let Candace do her thing and don't try to call her attention to too much stuff. Because now, what they're doing now is they need Candace Owens' attention. They need to get some traction on their platform by having Candace Owens on there, possibly to even get whacked off at some point after they have her on there. But let me know what you guys think about Erika's recent interview with Harris Faulkner. She's not happy with the Ian Carrolls, and the Candace Owens. She's not happy with their investigation. And Candace is a dog. I'm telling you, she is even making the FBI look like incompetent fools. She really is. Candace is making Cash Patel look like a deer. Every time I see Cash Patel do an interview, he looked like a deer stuck in some headlights. Just seen some headlights. That's what Cash Patel looks like to me. It is insane. Where you at, Candace girl? We knew this girl doing a blog talking about she loves Israel, and they finally exposed Jasmine Crawford for being another Israel shill. I don't understand why Americans do not get this. At least the faith-based Americans, the Christians, like, I'm telling you, you don't have to believe these things, right? But just keep in mind that when you read Bible prophecies, some of those prophecies took hundreds, some of them even thousands of years to come to pass. Okay, if you read from, like, one point to another, you're looking at a lot of time. One book to the other, one prophecy, you're looking at fulfillment hundreds of years down the line, right? And I do believe that we are the feet mixed with iron and clay in Daniel's prophecy. Okay, you don't have to believe that. I believe that. And I'll tell you why, right? Because obviously the iron represents fallen Rome, for the fallen Roman Empire. Because on Daniel's statue, when you look at that power that represents the legs made of iron, it is Rome, right? And so when you get into that feet mixed with iron and clay, we know where the iron came from. It came from that Roman old world influence, right? But where did the clay come from? That clay is Israel. And this is why America and Israel are dominant world powers today, because we are the feet. Like, y'all don't have to believe this, but we are the judgment generations. People don't want to believe that shit, but we really are. America and Israel are the feet mixed with iron and clay. Right? They represent all of those fragments from bastard Roman Empire and old Israel. That's a mockery right now. So, all we're waiting for is the son of perdition. And because America and Israel are pissing a lot of nations off in the world, I do think that we're going to have some global war in our lifetime. We're going to get some global war in, our lifetime. And we're also going to see a one world governance in our lifetime. And people don't believe, that. But we already see the cohesion. Europe will never go against the United States and Israel without feeling like they will epically be destroyed. You got to look at the psychology of these nations right now. Europe is United States and Israel's punks. Whether they are the old powers or not, they are the first beast that fell, right? Their resurrection comes in the form of America, right? But, anyways, you guys, crazy world that we live in. I pray for everybody. I pray for everybody on earth. I pray that you come to some kind of common sense and understand that there is no side to be in. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, these are the affairs of men. These are the affairs of men, right? So, anyways, you guys, love your neighbor. Ask yourself, if you would not disrespect or abuse yourself, do not disrespect or abuse your neighbor. Thank you to those who have tuned in. What's going on, Brian? I see you. I see you, Kevin. Dave, I see you. We got to pray for each other. This world is crazy. I was talking to my clients, and one of them after another, they're just so concerned. And I tell them, it's like, look, there's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun. And when you realize that there's nothing new under the sun and that everything is just being reinvented and covered over, right? Again, I recommend you guys watching that YouTube channel, My Lunch Break. Anybody like that channel? It's a great channel. My Lunch Break. I don't do 6 and 7. Okay. I don't let my children say 6, 7. We don't do that in this house. You know why? Because I do believe that it is a form of incantation. People are like, oh, it doesn't mean anything. Damn that. Anything that is a trend is a form of energy harvesting. I want you guys to think about that. A lot of trends are forms of energy harvesting, and they got people childishly participating in satanic rituals. And even if we get down to the core of 6, 7 being a block from a satanic rapper, why are the teachers? Why are people that are not even cut from that cloth saying shit like that? Y'all need to start paying attention to the trends that y'all jump onto, because a lot of y'all really be involved in satanic ritual and incantation and energy harvesting, and you don't even know it. Right? Satan is just presenting himself as an angel of light, and y'all just falling into his arms like idiots. I pray for y'all. I pray for y'all. You said quit cussing. There's kids on here. Well, they parents need to send their behinds to bed or get them off of YouTube. This is a grown-up channel. I am very clear that my channel is not for kids. So if there are kids on my channel, shame on the parents. Shame on the parents. Shame on the parents, okay? But does cussing offend you? I find that cussing really does offend the means I look at cussing as strong language, but I don't mind cussing. I really don't mind cussing. Who said that any of the English that we speak is really proper? But it's a strong emotion. And I always like to say that there's a difference between cussing, using strong language, and cursing, right? The Bible says you shouldn't curse, right? So let's go through that example again. John's an asshole. If it's a consensus that John is an asshole and everybody calls John's an asshole, that's just a strong word for John. But if we say that John is an asshole that deserves to get hit by a bus, now we just curse John, and that's evil, and you should never do that, because that's the type of cursing that the Bible warns against. And when you say that John is an asshole, are you really using a false tongue? No, because it could absolutely be true. So, just a biblical lesson for some of you saints out there. I ain't going to hell, as you would say, because I curse. You're going to hell for believing that I'm going to hell because I curse. Some people need to be cursed at, and I like cursing as a form of rebuking evilness. So anytime I'm in the context of cursing, it's usually something pretty evil or disgusting or detestable that doesn't really deserve nice words anyways. But anyways, anything else on our mind? 50 Cent dropped a documentary on Diddy. I didn't watch it. I didn't watch it because I don't really look at 50 Cent as being any more saint than Diddy. If anything, I look at 50 Cent as being a dude that's been waiting to take Diddy's spot for a long time in a lot of things, deals, music, all that shit, right? And Diddy fucked his baby mama and turned her into like a rag doll among his freak off. So he didn't get over that. So this is like a vengeful documentary. We already know how evil Diddy is. And again, you got a lot of people that sold their soul and now they're turning victim, right? Some people who would do anything for money, anything for fame, anything, and now they're victimized by their own choices. Was Diddy wrong for coercing them or possibly forcing them to do the deeds that they did? Absolutely. You look at a lot of these people, they were doing it more than once. Lil Rod talking about, I would wake up and my behind was all this and that. It's like, bruh, and you still stayed. You still stayed because you was trying to be eclipsed by the fame of that demonized man. And as long as you could get chopped off by that demonized man, you were more than willing to wake up and have your ass hurting every day. So some of these people are just dry snitches, guilty of their own decisions, victims of their own decisions, and they want to sit up there and crucify the man. He's in jail. He's been prosecuted, right? The brother has his fall from grace, but what they're trying to do is make sure that when Sean Diddy Combs comes out, that he has no more influence over the black community, and that we have such disgrace looking at him that we make sure that Diddy doesn't make any more money, right? I mean, that's really what it is. And so I don't respect 50 Cent. I don't respect petty men. He's not doing anything virtuous at all. You can go back to his own damn music, his own damn show, and see how 50 Cent is really cut. The dude ain't some saint, right? Like, he's just, get the fuck out of here with that shit. Anyways, you guys, have a wonderful rest of your day. We gonna pray for Candace Owens, right? We're going to pray for Candace Owens because, again, when you start playing with people's money, when you start playing with people's power, they will take you out of the game. All right? And so she's already talking about the French government got money on her head, right? And the Turning Point USA tries to abruptly invite her to a debate, right? Almost to me, to an ambush. They wanted Candace to come to an ambush. Candace was smart enough to say, nah, I'm good on that. I'm so good on that, right? So this girl got a lot to think about. Her whole family has a lot to think about because she's saying, she's implicating people, right? She's implicating people. She's connecting dots that those people don't want to be connected, and those dots that is connecting, she's putting a lot of people on the spotlight, and these people have a lot to lose, But I would say this to Candace Owens: you have a family, and you should love your family even more than you had love and respect for Charlie Kirk. When you go into dangerous territories where people are putting threats on your life, that's not just a threat to your life. That is a threat to your children's life. That's a threat to your husband's life. That's a threat to your household. And I think at some point, even the people who are encouraging Candace Owens and who care about Candace Owens should call that, and maybe they should make her more conscious of that. Like, Candace, we love what you're doing, but maybe you should take a break. Maybe you should take a break from this, because since Charlie died, she has not let up. She has not taken her foot off of anybody's neck. And that's admirable to be a friend like that, but she too needs to have her process to grieve. She too needs to have her process to kind of step back and see, at the end of the day, is any of the stuff that I'm doing right now, 5 years from now, is it going to be worth it? Or is Charlie Kirk going to be another JFK and Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, where we're remembering him as this revolutionary for a time, but everyone has kind of moved on from like all of his real life core beliefs. And I understand she don't want him to be forgotten. I understand that she's hurt at the way that he was taken out of the game. But part of this doesn't look healthy either. And I'm not saying Candace is mentally ill. I just think that she's hurt and she needs to chill, just like Erika Kirk needs to chill. You know, like, just chill. Like, Erika needs to chill. I really am tired of seeing her ass. She don't look right. I don't care what the conservatives say. You can weaponize God and faith all you want to. She does not look like a grieving widow at all. She doesn't. I really did not expect to see Erika Kirk for at least 3 months. Like, at least 3 months. Like, this is about the time where I would have expected to see Erika Kirk pop out. But she been on the block the whole time. So, I heard the dude from the quartering say, oh, people criticizing her about the way that she's grieving and blah, 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 whoop de whoop de whoop. And she, like, man, forget that. Erika Kirk looks suspect as hell. She looks suspect as hell. And she's reactive as hell, too. Because, again, they did not respond to Candace Owens for 3 months. But then all of a sudden, when the money and the influence was on the line, now Turning Point USA has to come on the mic and act all victimized by the stuff that Candace is doing. But in retrospect, they're claiming that they're doing the same thing that Candace is doing. They're just being quiet about it. They're just funneling things to the FBI, but they're not making it public. And maybe if Turning Point USA did more of that, like what Candace is doing, people wouldn't look at them so weird. Because if you're agreeing that, if she's saying, I want to fight for my husband, I want to do this, I want justice for my husband, blah, blah, then you'd be doing the same damn thing that Candace is doing, and you really wouldn't have a problem with what Candace is doing, and if there were some internal things happening in your organization, right? You want to know that because maybe you weren't familiar with all the stuff that's going on. I just saw Jimmy Dore talking about the finances at Turning Point, how they had all these little LLCs. Some of these things are in parking lots. And some of those companies did not have Charlie's name on it, but there was money being funneled from the core organization into these side chick organizations. So there are people, this guy, what is his name? Wolf of Wall Street. Like, he follows the money and stuff. I love people like that. He's scrutinizing Turning Point USA's finances right now. And he's noticing a lot of suspect things. And a lot of people are like, well, how much of the inner workings of what was happening in Turning Point was Charlie's really aware of? And why did Charlie call for an audit of his organization, the finances? Why did he want to doge his own organization? And it could be because there was a lot of side chick organization where money was being funneled. When you look at some of the expenditures of some of these $8 million here, right? It's all for salaries for a very short duration of time. Like, I mean, honestly, I want to work at Turning Point USA if I can make $300,000 in 6 months. Raise your hand if you would work at Turning Point USA if you could make $300K in 6 months. Smart people would do, like, it's a no-brainer. But then again, it's like, what the hell are you doing for the organization for that much money, for a salary like that? for a very short duration of time. Some of the paper trail on their finances is weird, and maybe that's what really got Charlie killed. Is he started getting into the finances of things too. So I mean, there could be a lot of reasons why Charlie Kirk ain't with us today, right? You can go ahead and take that whole, oh, he changed his position on Israel and they were losing donors, and these donors were pro-Israel donors, and as a result, you know, some Mossad connection took him out the game, right? Or if you're looking at Turning Point, you're like, that's a hell of a lot of money for that organization to be losing for a nonprofit organization. Let's just keep it a buck. If it is true that Israel offered Turning Point USA $150 million to basically buy their influence, right? And Charlie said no, right? If I were somebody who had a financial interest in Turning Point, if I was maybe laundering money from one organization to the other, the last thing I would want is Charlie Kirk saying no to $150 million. And what do you know? Right after the dude died, they done got almost $140 million, according to Candace, in donations. So somebody had to trust and believe when it comes to the interest and when it comes to money, right? Your friends aren't your friends, all right? A lot of people don't want to believe that in life, that when it comes to a greater interest in money, that even your best friend can turn on you. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. Money in itself is not evil, right? It says, for the love of money is the root of all evil. Money is a tool. And just like a hammer, just like a gun, these are tools. A gun does not kill people. Guns do not kill people. Stupid people with guns kill people. A gun has no more intention than the person that's holding it. So the love of money is the root of all evil. And trust and believe, if you have a friend in your circle who loves money, they don't love you. You got men who will kill their best friends just to be with their wives. So when we're talking about money, come on, you guys. I don't think that where Candace Owens is going with her investigation is far-fetched at all. I do think she needs to give herself a break, though. All right? Make sure your security measures are up a little bit, because you are definitely going to need them. When you are playing with people's money, when you're talking about people's money, when you're even playing with the influence, because again, Turning Points, the Charlie Kirk show's numbers are going down. Nobody's interested in Mikey and Andy and all these people. Nobody's interested in the things that they're saying. They were interested in Charlie and all those people, but they're not interested in all those other people, right? So that show is not even going to survive. And why is it still called the Charlie Kirk Show with all these people who have not an awesome personality? Charlie Kirk had a personality. You know, whether you liked him or not, he still had a dynamic character. It's like some of these people are just fake. You could tell money hungry people because they fake cool. Like Andrew Kovac, I mean, I'm pretty sure that dude just, no. I'm sure the rich and greedy like guys like that, but they don't look cool. They don't look cool real people. They don't look like real cool people at all. But anyways, you guys, have a wonderful rest of your evening. Let me know what you think about Erika Kirk's rebuttal to Candace. She said, this is my husband. That's my husband. You would have thought, the way she said that, she was like, almost like she was addressing the other woman, like, that's my husband. Because Candace out there fighting harder for her husband than she is. But anyways, you guys have a wonderful evening, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye.